Space Megaforce, presented by Toho.
If you know me, you know that I like my traditional top-view shoot-'em-up games. And Space Megaforce, despite its mega cheesy title, is one of the best on any 16-bit platform. Put together by the shooter experts at Compile, this game was released in Japan as Super Aleste and is in the Aleste series of games that include games such as Musha on the Genesis. And NES owners might remember them from Gunnak and Zanak. They're known for a certain style of top-view shmup that includes lots of frantic action with tons of objects on the screen, although they are not really considered manic shooters. Other trademarks include really long levels and a multitude of different power-ups. In fact, this game alone has 8 different weapons you can get for your ship, and you can use all those in different modes. I mean, here, check these bad boys out. Space Megaforce launches you into the game with super fast scrolling combined with parallax and translucent backgrounds. If it was a all-out assault on the senses that they wanted, well, mission accomplished. The game is also great at pushing the Super Nintendo to its limits. Not only does it have the aforementioned effects, but the game also pushes many objects at the same time. If you play a lot of Super Nintendo and also like shooters, you might remember that a lot of the shooters on this platform exhibit an awful lot of slowdown when things get busy. Well, not Space Megaforce. This game pushes, say, 100 objects on screen at a time without a hint of slowdown. And it does it all with really cool Mode 7 effects in the background. And you know, this is par for the course for any shoot-'em-up by Compile. If you played any of their games on the 8-bit systems, you'll see the same kind of crazy sprite pushing that this game has. Okay, well, nice graphics are always a pleasant thing, but let's talk about the gameplay. Unlike many of Compile's other shoot-'em-up games, I find Space Megaforce to be quite challenging even from the get-go. Even though the game lets you take multiple hits and throws many extra lives at you, it still throws plenty of obstacles your way. It's not one of those games where you can just power up and then kinda go into cruise control for the rest of the game. Space Megaforce really makes you learn the levels. Even so, it's not what I would call a memorizer. This game knows how to be a challenge while keeping things fair and fun, which I think is something of a rarity in the 16-bit era. And shoot-'em-up beginners will be happy to know that you can take a couple hits in this game before you perish. How many hits you're able to take depends on your power-up level. To power up, you grab these eggs that are floating around like I just did here, and once you get hit, you're going to want to scramble for those eggs. Yeah, scramble eggs. I'm not sorry one bit. The game also throws some pretty creative bosses at you, such as this guy here, which doesn't really resemble anything in reality. In fact, that's the aesthetic for a lot of the game, which I really like. You know, you might have noticed it in the last level with those planets that kind of zoom in and out. At times, Space Megaforce can be downright surreal. It also has a few elements that are uncharacteristic for top-view shoot-'em-up games like this. The environmental hazards seen here are more, common in a game like Gradius that's a side view shoot 'em up game. And I don't know why that is. I think it's just the way the two genres kind of evolved. And there's really no reason for it, but the inclusion of these elements in a top view game really does help give Space Megaforce its own character. There's a short list of top view shoot 'em up games with these kinds of elements, and Space Megaforce is on there.
Multi-direction stuff.
The kind of twin paths you see here do remind me a bit of a game like Xenon 2. Now, that's not really one of my favorite shoot 'em up games. In fact, I really think it's quite overrated, to say the least. But because of stuff like that, or the house music soundtrack that almost sounds like an Amiga mod file, I thought this game was a European release for a really long time. Now, the game not only has a couple difficulty settings, but if you go to the left, there are some additional modes that are not just harder, but they also shoot suicide bullets at you. For those who aren't shoot 'em up freaks like me, suicide bullets are bullets that are launched at the player whenever an enemy is destroyed. This not only has the effect of keeping the player on the move, but also forces the player to make a decision of whether they want to shoot a target or not. Because sometimes if you're in a tight space, there really isn't a whole lot of room to dodge, so you might want to hold off on shooting for a little bit. So this not only just makes the game harder, but also introduces a new layer of strategy for the player. Space Megaforce is also a very long game, so they also have a short mode, which, I thought this was going to be a time attack like other compile games, but instead it's actually a remix of the whole game that is, well, shorter. For example, this omits that spinning space station level I showed earlier in the review. And these aren't rehashes of the same levels, these are actually different levels with the same enemies and background art. So that's Space Megaforce, one of my favorite shooters of that entire era. And as if the main game wasn't good enough, it also gives you multiple ways to play it as well. So it's a game with a whole lot of replay value built in. So that pretty much wraps up Space Megaforce. And in case you're wondering, I've been reviewing Nintendo games all month, but I also review a variety of other consoles and computer games as well, so be sure to subscribe so you don't miss a single review. I'll catch you next time.